I'm going to give an unpopular opinion,
Mm.
okay? Real estate agents should be detached from the outcome, regardless of how much work they've put in, regardless if a deal doesn't work out or not. They should be detached from that outcome. And unfortunately,
That's not the case.
that is not the case, man. So many agents, and for good reason. Agents work really, really hard. And they have
Josh, what's the one thing buyers never notice but inspectors always do?
Oh, that's hard. There's so many things that buyers aren't able to see with their eyes when they walk into a house. I just had this situation happen earlier this week where we were under contract. The house looked fantastic, but when the home inspector got in there, the home was built in the 70s and it had all of the outlets had no ground, right? And so the wires, and I mean, had they looked closely, they would have seen the outlets didn't have a ground. But it's just one of those things that when you're excited about a house, you miss, right? So just little things like that, the home inspectors are going to catch all of it. They're going to catch if there's galvanized plumbing, if there's cast iron plumbing, if there's polybutylene plumbing, right? All of those are red flags. But buyers, when they look at a house, they don't get underneath to look at the guts of it. They're just saying, wow, this is beautiful. Sometimes it's just makeup on a pig, right? So the home inspector, again, I never advise ever skipping a home inspection. Always get the inspection done. You know, it is totally worth the $500 to $1,000, whatever it's going to cost, just so it's going to save you from spending tens of thousands later down the road.
Yeah, or at least you know like what you're getting into or what you're going to have to spend.
Absolutely.
So you're making an informed decision.
Or what to negotiate, right?
Mm.
So again, if I'm representing a buyer, my job is to get that buyer the best deal possible. Why should they have to pay for deferred maintenance from a seller who's been living there for 20 years and didn't want to do anything to the house? It's not their responsibility.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that too with, because I know that's a stressful part for buyers and sellers, right? I think the inspections and it's stressful for the sellers because you're like, okay, we're sellers too. You know, you're living in your house. You might not always know what's wrong with it. But as a buyer, same thing. You walk through, you see things. Okay, this looks good, but you never know what's hidden underneath. So, how does that usually play out? Let's say you have a house. There's a deal set up. They're under contract, and then all of a sudden something pops up in the inspection that's not like, groundbreaking or horrible. But let's say it's like you mentioned the grounds, but it's something to do with like. I know in Georgia, the polybutylene piping was huge. A lot of houses were built with that, and it degrades over time and it can cause issues. So how do you walk your clients through that, whether you be on the buyer's or the seller's side? What concessions should the seller make, all that?
So, oh man, there's so much that goes into negotiation.
Yeah.
I think start at the top. What is the motivation for the seller? Why are they moving? Did they price it correctly from the beginning? Did they go off of pipe dream pricing and they're already high, right? So you have to start at the top and then work your way down. And so, and same thing for the buyer. Like, what are their goals? Number one, do they love the house so much? Do they love the location, the city? Is it perfect? Other than some of these deferred maintenance items. Because if it is, then sometimes buyers can overlook or take on some projects that they wouldn't necessarily be willing to if it wasn't the perfect.
I was going to say emotional attachment is always going to have to come, I would imagine have to play in here. It's like, how badly do you want the house?
Oh yeah.
That's going to have to play, but then also, I would think that kind of is what separates a really good realtor, is one thing that's saying, hey, I know you really, really want this house, but I really, really want you to understand what you're getting into. Absolutely. Financially and fiscally and all that stuff. Like, I hear you, you want it, we get it. Because I've been in that boat before, getting emotionally attached to a house. Yeah. You really, really want it. But I think it's important for people to realize, like, hey, if you have a good realtor, they should be kind of telling you, pump the brakes. I know you want it. Yep. Think through it. So how do you, let's be on the, that's kind of the buyer side. The sellers, let's say you have a pretty reasonable seller and they run into something that they weren't expecting. Is it sometimes just a case is like, hey, sorry guys, this is something you didn't know was there. You can try and negotiate, based on they really want the house. Maybe they'll take on the burden of this. Yep. How do you see that go most times? Do you see that a lot of times the seller just has to take it on? Is it all market dependent?
Market dependent.
Okay.
Yeah. It all depends on what is currently happening in the market. How many homes are there available in that market, in that neighborhood? How many homes are there actual competition? Because if there's other homes that are competition and they're better priced, or the sellers are willing to make concessions or make repairs, and you as a seller or not, you're going to get beat out every time. It's just not that market. My advice to sellers is always this: have an experienced agent come out and look at your home. If they see things that are going to even deter people from looking at it because it's in such rough shape, they'll probably advise you to fix some things up. However, it's one of those things too where I'm really careful with it right now, because I have seen sellers put tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars into a home just because they think it's going to add value, but they end up selling for a loss because the buyer didn't see the value in the repairs that they were making. So it's all circumstantial, but all I can say is this: if you are a buyer looking for a home, look at, number one, what condition is the home in? But number two, is the location desirable? Are you going to have a good time with resale later down the road? Or are you going to have a heck of a time selling it? Look at those factors, and then just make sure the numbers crunch. Don't be upside down, right? You have to make a smart decision. You do need an agent who's going to put you in a smart decision. Your agent should be helping you make a great investment. If they're helping you make a bad investment, that's okay, as long as it's your idea and the agent has told you you're.
Or hey, I know like what I'm getting into. Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing. Is I kind of liken it to like going to the doctor. It's like, it's never fun to go to the doctor because you're like, well, what if they find something? You know what I mean? Like, you need, at a point, you're like, well, I want to move, I want to sell my house.
Yeah.
But it's kind of that same feeling of like, I hope it works out, or da 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 da. And the reality with a lot of those things is you do want to have a good advisor that's just going to tell you, hey man, like, good, bad, or indifferent, no matter how you feel about this is what it is.
Yep.
And real estate seems to be just like one of those things that is just, every deal is slightly different, because everything that's motivating that buyer, everything that's motivating that seller is just, there's slight tweaks to it, right?
Yep.
And I think that's really important.
Yep.
Let's see. What's something homeowners think is an update that instantly dates the house? You were talking about this a second ago. You see people, kind of do updates. I feel like I know when I was selling my house, there's a little bit of like panic that comes into that, because you're like, okay, now we're selling.
Yeah.
Well, change the doorknobs, do that, and that's where having a good real estate agent, I would imagine, that can advise you in your market and what's going on. Hey, these are the things that are good and these are the bad. So what are they?
I know I've touched on this before, but I love my sellers, okay? I'm talking to my boomers out there. I love you guys. Ceiling fans and cabinet hardware does not add value to the house. I love you to death.
That's a trip to Home Depot, man. Yeah. It's not $60,000 equity.
Repainting a wall, that's $30 for a can of paint. Like, I love you, but it's not adding real value to the house. Also, I see this a lot, but again, not to pick on my boomers here, but if they're updating a kitchen, let's say, but they're using the style granite countertops from 20 years ago, and they're putting in granite, but it's from 20 years ago, that is not adding value to the house. Someone's going to come in and they're going to tear that out anyways. So you would be better off not doing any updates, lowering the price of the house so that the buyer sees the value in the house and can come in and make their own updates, right? Don't choose the style as a seller, because you are really limiting your pool of buyers for, are you going to match their style, or are you going to totally miss the mark?
And you could get lucky. In other words, you could update your kitchen and you could say, hey, I am going to get that buyer that will pay more. But that could, I would imagine, also increase the time that you're sitting on the market, right? So if you have somebody that comes in and they design their kitchen a very specific way, well, 9 out of 10 people are going to look at it and go, You might get that one person that's like, cool, I really like it, I'm willing to pay the money. But if time is a concern, you might be adding time versus just pre-concession and saying, hey, we lowered the price based on we know this needs to be repaired, so do what you want with it.
And I have met very few homeowners that are actual interior designers or architectural designers, okay? Even though they want to have grand ambitions of remodeling and they think they know what's hip and what's cool and what's in right now, they don't sometimes.
They watch HGTV though, dude. Oh, they watch House Flipper.
That's it. Yeah.
You just had a bunch of people at home go, oh, how dare he? But it's the reality.
Listen, I love HGTV too, but we don't want to take that role on, because it can cost us lots of money. So my advice is get an expert in there, get a contractor in there, look through and see what's actually going to add value to the home.
Yeah. There's an old saying, the military, 2 is 1, 1 is none. So having just your opinion, it could be right, but it's much better. Like, even if you, I mean, I have a little bit of experience in the construction world. My wife does keep on and up on stuff like that, but there's no way that I was not going to at least get one extra opinion of someone that I valued and thought would know it well. So yeah, I think that's really, really good advice. What's something, oh no, I just did that one. What's the biggest emotional mistake sellers make?
Biggest emotional mistake? Yeah, that's it. They're emotional. That's the biggest mistake. Don't get tied. It's so hard because a lot of the sellers, I get it. They've been there for 20, 30 years. They raised a family there. Like, there's memories attached to that house. There's sentimental value attached to that house. But it's a mistake when you get your emotions wrapped up in the sale of a property, because, and I say this so much, but the house is worth what someone's willing to pay for it at the time. And depending on what the market is doing, some sellers think they have a $2 million property when it's only worth $1 million, and they're doing themselves a giant disservice. So I would say too, it also depends on the seller's motivation. Why are they selling? Do they actually have to sell, or they're just feeling out the market? Like, what's going on behind the scenes? Because that is going to help determine the price as well, and how soon they need to get it sold. So that's, don't be emotional. I know it's really hard. That's why you have someone like me come in, right? I'm not emotional about the deals. To me, it's just numbers. And my job is to get you the highest number possible as a seller. But also, we have to be realistic with what the market is currently bearing. And so all I do is look at the data, look at the moving parts, and see what can we actually do? What's the best game plan to get the house sold quickly for the most amount of money?
Yeah, because facts don't care about your feelings.
Correct.
At the end of the day. I mean, like you're saying, the market is what it is. So what do you say to buyers, like, if you have one of those properties, you're somebody that has this property, you love it, you've been in it for a really long time, what advice would you give to them to try and, like, find a balance between, like, a realistic pricing? Just go to someone who knows it and swallow it. I mean, basically go, it is what it is. Or, I mean, what's your guide, I guess?
My guide is honesty always. And again, there's some sellers where I tell them, don't sell your house. You know, if you don't have to move, the number you need to get for it right now, it's not realistic. So hold on to it for 3-5 years, let the market recover, and then maybe you'll get, it's just a matter of time for the market to catch up to what you actually want to get out of the property. If you have to sell, if there's a life circumstance that is making you sell that property, you have to be realistic with what the market will currently bring you. And that's it. So I would say, to your question, just have someone who's going to tell you the truth, even if it's not what you want to hear. But I would rather tell someone the truth rather than waste their time. It's just it's not worth it.
No, it makes sense. And it ends up costing everyone more money, you know. So here's an interesting thing that I'm kind of realizing, Josh, is spending more time with you, is that I think there's a perception outside of real estate, and maybe this is just me being a younger, 32-year-old man and less experienced in life, but there's kind of this expectation of, like, it's a real estate agent, right? And as we start talking about some of these subjects and, like, hey, go find somebody, again, that was the last video we talked about, a very, very important thing is finding that good agent. But how would you convey that to people, that, like, hey, this really does translate into you getting good advice, and that a real estate agent is important? Because I know it might hurt your feelings, but a lot of people, I think they just look at it and they're like, real estate's real estate. And I know that's kind of an ignorant position, but what would you say to folks that way?
Not at all. Real estate agents are a dime a dozen. There's so many real estate agents in the nation, even in this small little town. There's so many real estate agents. And all I can tell people is find someone who cares, okay? Because that's it. You know my background. Before I got into real estate, my wife and I were Christian missionaries overseas, right? Like, I love people, and that's, I need to make money, so I sell houses for a living. But ultimately, I care more about people and their hearts and their life circumstances, what's going on. Man, it is crazy because I talk to Number one, all of my clients become friends because we talk on a real level, right? Like I get to learn about their lives. They're opening up to me about finances, about divorce, about death, about growing a family, having kids. Like I get let into people's everyday real lives, and we form a genuine bond and relationship, which is that's life, number one. But number two, it's also just a way for me to do what I'm most passionate about, and that's work with people and love on people, right? And take care of people. So to me, real estate is so much more than just transacting and negotiating and making money and all this stuff. No, it's about helping people achieve their goals, because selling real estate, buying or selling a house, is one of the 5 most stressful things that you do throughout your lifetime. You know, there's death, there's divorce, there's taxes, there's selling real estate. Like it's in there, buying and selling real estate. And so if I can help someone ease that burden by giving them really, really good advice or helping them make, I mean, a lot of the times it is the most important financial decision that they're ever going to make.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
So that's my job.
Yeah, instability, I think generally, like when people are in places where things become unstable, is actually when, one, you'll want the most logical, like helpful people from an outside perspective to come in, but you want them to do it with a kind heart. Yeah. So, and I think that's a good way of putting it, is like, hey, I am here for the business and I'm going to tell you like the business aspect of this, but I'm going to do it with a kind heart. And I think that's what's very different, is a lot of times you'll get people that come in and it's like you're saying, they're just trying to turn someone over or on to the next thing. And man, that's not one, it goes against what you and I, our kind of motto to life. But on top of that, in the long run, it does turn into that commission breath, or that just like turn it over.
Yes.
And people are in like it or not, not all of them, but when you're buying or selling, you're kind of in a vulnerable place in life. You're changing your home, you're changing where you're at.
Yep.
So me personally, I want someone that's going to feed me the facts as they are, but understand my goals and try and shift that for me. There's no better realtor than that in my mind. I don't want you to make me necessarily feel good or any of that stuff. So I think that's really crucial for people to kind of understand that. I know we're getting on the topic of like realtors again, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. And I'm going to give an unpopular opinion, okay? Real estate agents should be detached from the outcome, regardless of how much work they've put in, regardless if a deal doesn't work out or not. They should be detached from that outcome. And unfortunately,
that's not the case.
That is not the case, man. So many agents, and for good reason. Agents work really, really hard, and they have no guaranteed paycheck. They're a 1099 employee. They work for themselves a lot of the time, and they don't have any stable income. And so if they don't sell at a high level, they are very, very dependent on one sale, because that's going to bring them income that they desperately need. Okay, not that as you as a seller or buyer should have to worry about.
Yeah, that's not your problem.
It's not your problem, but too many agents unfortunately operate in a situation like that, where they're so dependent on that one deal, they will do whatever it takes to push you into a house that might not be right for you. Or
so when you're saying that is not only as a buyer or seller something you want to look at, but you're saying in real estate, that's a mindset that develops in realtors that in the long run doesn't pay off for them, because they're so worried about just like, let me get through this one thing, that not only does that hurt the buyer and the seller, but it also hurts them as a realtor and their success as far as getting out of that poverty mindset that, oh my God, it's a sale, I need to get it.
Totally. And I'm just going to speak to my agents, if that's okay. If you're a real estate agent and you're new, or you're struggling and you don't have 6 months or 12 months of reserves to live off of, real estate's going to be really, really hard. Okay, it's going to be really tough unless you are willing to go and work your absolute face off to represent your clients at a very high level. It can be a very difficult position because you don't have the guaranteed income, right? So to all my realtors watching, I love you, and make sure you're making smart decisions. Try to be detached from the outcome. I know it's hard, especially if you're not making any money, but the relationship. Can I touch on
please.
Just one more thing? The reason why is because you don't want to ruin a relationship just over money. It's not worth it. We only get a certain amount of relationships on this earth. So I say that is pivotal. That's primary. Like, don't sacrifice the relationship just for a paycheck.
Yeah. No, I think that's, and again, I think that a lot of people in business miss that entirely. In other words, the little bit of sales I did, it was always like, hey, pretend like you care about the person. And it's like, why pretend? Just care about the person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, go in, sell them, like on some, you have a good product, you believe in that product and you want to help them out. It's not like tricking someone. It's basically making them see the value and caring about that person.
Yep.
So I think that's a mentality in sales in general, but especially in real estate that, maybe short term, it makes you make more money if you're just boom, 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 boom. But you're more dependent upon a crazy market and like, fish in a barrel type scenario. Whereas kind of what you're doing is like, hey, even when the market shifts or does things differently, because you've kind of built this consistent, hey, I just care, then that's what builds clients over long periods of time. And I think it's important for sellers and buyers because to see the back end of that. Like, you're not just telling people to make the sellers and buyers feel good. You're saying, hey, no, this benefits me too. Like, honestly, this type of attitude benefits me in the long run.
Absolutely. Yeah. I have client relationships where I will sell to an entire generation of their family now because they know they can trust me with a really, really big
It's like a
message.
mechanic, man. Like, it's the same thing as a mechanic, right? Like, if that person comes in and tries to make that quick buck off you, like maybe you kind of needed brake pads, but I'm going to trust the dude who's like, hey man, is money tight? Yeah, it's a little tight right now. You can go a little longer on those brake pads. Just don't go too long, but you can squeeze a little bit more out of that. Right. Guess what? Instant trust for that person who's doing what's best for me. Absolutely. And providing a service to me.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, I think that's a good spot to wrap this one up. Okay. I think that's a, kind of just for a lot of people when they're looking at, we talked a little bit about buyers and sellers and what's emotionally driving people and how to navigate that. And again, it kind of comes back to why is it important? It's not just a real estate agent out there. It's how do I determine, hey, is this a good real estate agent? Is this someone I want to work with? And then how's he going to help you navigate those things?
Yep. Love it.